1872, a village meeting decided that a sailing club would be formed. The East Anglian Water Company offered a suitable site on Rollesby Broad. On a grey, wet, cold morning, Mr. Keith Clark, Chief Engineer, Roy Simmons and myself went along to view. We were over the top of Wellington Boots in smelly mud, engulfed totally in reeds, and still some 30 yards from real water, which we could not even see. Apart from the reeds, there seemed to be not dozens, but hundreds of scrub trees which would have to be removed. The next Sunday found a nucleus of club members, all having paid their 10-bob sub, as it was then, with axes, saws, spades, etc., and Richard Taken turned up with his tractor, also a bulldozer and a ton crane. Before long, a fire was crackling away, burning anything that would burn. Jackets were off even on this cold day, and solid hard work with as usual cuts and blisters, not forgetting aching backs, were made light of with the usual banter and even occasional song. Several Sundays were spent thus, and the real clearing began to emerge. One of our big worries was the natural pond on the spot and at the rear of where our clubhouse is now. No matter what we put in here, there was still room for more. Believe it or not, the problem was eventually solved by emptying hundreds and hundreds of sacks of sawdust, which were offered to us free. Whilst all this was going on, our site engineer, Ray Simmons, had planned the launching slip and jetty. The water company, always extremely helpful, had found us a number of sleepers which were assembled and made fast. The timber had been ordered for the jetty, which of course was built the hard way. That is, clad only in bathing trunks, up to the shoulders in water many a time, and wielding a sledgehammer. With amazing keenness of those working, the jetty appeared as if by magic. The first day of sailing was a gentle affair, picnic fashion, with the weatherman being kind, which was a good thing, as of course we had no clubhouse. We did, however, have 2 sheds with Elson-type toilets. The accent was definitely on family membership, as you can see. The ladies very much in evidence, and even young babies were brought along on this July day. Several boats sailed, and it became quickly apparent that whilst most were beginners, with very varied classes of boat, the real interest was already there. The ladies, bless them, had brought food and drink, and as usual, and it's the same with all clubs, their presence made the day. This is the great difference with our sport, isn't it? Ours is a family interest, not just a sport, but rather a way of life. For the remainder of the season, we pledged to work Sunday mornings and sometimes Saturday afternoons. Sailing the afternoons, and this is how it ended. We had won out, the toil had been worthwhile, and we were actually afloat. On the last Sunday of the season, our first race took place. must be careful not to spoil something precious. This year opened with real enthusiasm. Our members had increased in numbers and further work had gone afoot. There was much to do about rigging and sailing, as many of our members were absolutely new to the sport. We had many capsizes too, and at this time our secretary, Sid Sharrock, was in much demand with his rescue boat. Regular racing, mostly on a very friendly and happy-go-lucky basis, was a feature. And whilst most people did not know even basic rules, soon learning came with the appreciated help given by one or two stalwarts with great experience. The picnic attitude was great, but it was realised that soon we must have a clubhouse with proper toilets, etc. Much thought was given to this, and again the East Anglian Water Company, represented by Mr. Clark, Chief Engineer, and Mr. Fitz, the Secretary, gave us advice and all help they could. The clubhouse site. This, as you can see, had been chosen. A great deal of infilling was required, and again the club's stalwarts did a magnificent job. We had over several precious months discussed with the water company the type of building which was suited to us both in use and aesthetically. As you can see, the end result is good. The crowning glory was the gift of the flagstaff, the choice of our flag, and the generous provision of a reasonable road into the car park, the latter again by the water company. Our jetty was extended, and the inner pool and slip surrounds, of which we now had two, excavated by a mechanical digger. July 7th, 1974 was chosen as the day. It was decided to ask Mr. Tom Watson, Chairman of Directors, East Anglian Water Company, to officiate. He was accompanied by Mr. John Boone, General Manager. We were also pleased to have Sir Patrick Ben and Lady Ben, who had kindly given us the authority to sail down to the Eel's Foot. Light refreshments were laid on, and at 12:30 hours the ceremony in happy mood began. The press and television were present, the weather was kind, and everything went well. Mr. Watson recalled the past history leading up to the present time. The club was declared open. Refreshments were taken by all, and as our honoured guests departed, some of us took to the water, and later racing took place. As always, there is still much work to be done, interior roads, etc. to be dealt with, but with such a magnificent start, who can doubt the successful future of our club?